My name is Madeline Carter. I'm 33, and I live alone in a small apartment just outside Sacramento. Every morning starts the same: black coffee, a quiet scroll through emails, and the sound of traffic humming through double-paned windows. It's a routine I built for myself. Simple. Predictable. Mine. I work in finance. Numbers are easier than people. Numbers don't ask questions. They don't forget birthdays. They don't call only when they need something. That Wednesday felt no different. I had coffee breath, a to-do list on a sticky note, and my inbox open when the phone rang. No caller ID. I almost let it go to voicemail. But I didn't. That one decision unraveled everything, not with shouting, not with a crash, but with a soft, professional voice that said, "Is this Madeline Carter? We're calling about your mortgage balance of $720,000. I've always been the steady one. That's what my mom used to call me. Her rock. Her backup plan." She said it like a compliment. But it never felt like one. Growing up, it was never loud in our house. It was quiet in a way that pressed against your ribs. Like you should know better than to speak too much, ask too much, feel too much. My sister, Brianna, could cry in the middle of dinner and the world would stop spinning until someone figured out why. I once had strep for 3 days before anyone noticed I hadn't eaten. If she forgot her homework, it was because she had a lot on her plate. When I forgot mine once, it was, "Madeline, you're smarter than this." When she wrecked her first car, Dad shrugged. That's what insurance is for. When I asked for a used laptop for school, Mom sighed. We're not made of money. It wasn't hatred. It would have been easier if it were. They just expected me to hold it all. Grades. Bills. Calm. When our mom had her surgery, I was 22. I took time off work. Filled out the insurance. Drove her to appointments. They said thank you. Once. Brianna posted about it on Instagram. Family means everything. She got 100 likes. I got another hospital phone to fax. Even as an adult, the pattern stuck. When Brianna bounced between jobs, I helped her fix her resume. When she couldn't get approved for a lease, I co-signed, just for a few months, Mom promised. I paid for their internet 1 year. No one noticed. Until it got cut off. Then they called. Every favor felt small at the time. Just a signature. Just a form. Just a little help. That's how it always started. And I always said yes. Not because I didn't know how to say no. But because saying yes was easier than hearing the disappointment in Mom's voice. Easier than being called difficult. Ungrateful. Cold. You're the one who has it together, she'd remind me. You're strong. They said it like strength meant I didn't get to break. Like it excused them from ever asking if I was okay. So I became dependable. Predictable. Quiet. I told myself that was enough. That being needed was the same as being loved. It took a long time to realize it wasn't. The voice on the phone was calm. Professional. Too calm. Your mortgage balance is currently $720,000, he said, like he was reading off a receipt. I blinked. I don't have a mortgage. Ma'am, the file lists you as the primary borrower. We've sent multiple notices. I wanted to laugh. I didn't. Instead, I asked for the address tied to the loan. He read it out. It wasn't mine. But it was familiar. It was Brianna's. The porch she once gushed about, the family-friendly neighborhood, the house she said would be her new beginning. She called it her fresh start after her breakup. Said she was manifesting stability. I remember her waving Pinterest photos over dinner. Mom saying, "We'll figure something out." I didn't think this was what she meant. I ended the call, somehow still polite, and stared at nothing for a long time. The room was quiet except for the hum of my laptop. But inside my chest, something cracked. I told myself it had to be a mistake. A typo. A glitch. Wrong Madeline Carter. But my gut didn't believe it. I tore through my filing cabinet, tax returns, bank letters, FAFSA forms from college, copies of my ID. Then I found it. A flyer from Liberty National. I had tossed it aside months ago. Didn't even open it. Now it felt like a red flag I ignored. I sat on the floor, surrounded by my own documents, my name on paper after paper. My handwriting. My signature. I never remembered signing for a house. Because I didn't. But someone else had. And they had practiced. I requested the loan documents. When they arrived, I stared at them in silence. My name. My date of birth. My social security number. All correct. Then the signature. It looked like mine. Almost. Too clean. Too confident. Not the slight tilt I had in my C. Not the hesitation I always had before the T. It was a version of me I didn't recognize. But I knew who had done it. There was only one group of people who ever had that much access to me. Who had watched me sign things for years. Who had handed me forms, called me the responsible one, asked me to fix things quietly. My family. I didn't scream. Didn't call Brianna. Didn't send a message to my parents asking how they could betray me like this. I just started pulling every document I'd ever signed for them. Internet bills. Lease agreements. Co-signed loans. Medical authorizations. One by one. Stack by stack. 10 years of saying yes without being asked. And suddenly, I realized the truth. They never gave me the chance to say no. Because they never believed I would. I didn't confront anyone. Not right away. There was no text. No call. No demand for an explanation. Instead, I opened my laptop and made a list. Every document I had ever signed for them. Every favor. Every form. Every small yes that had built the staircase they climbed. I spent hours pulling paperwork from dusty boxes. Old tax returns, rental agreements, FAFSA cosigns. There was even a copy of the insurance policy I'd helped file when Mom had her surgery. So many papers. So many pieces of me, scattered through their lives. The more I collected, the more it sank in. This wasn't a mistake. It was a pattern. I didn't cry. I just kept sorting, printing, highlighting. I brought the stack to a quiet little law office downtown. My friend Sloan had given me the number. Mr. Whitaker didn't flinch when I handed him the folder. He flipped through it silently, page by page, his brow tightening. When he finally looked up, he said, "You understand what this is, right?" I nodded slowly. Fraud. Identity theft. He nodded back. And more, if we dig deeper. I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. I don't want revenge, I said. I just want it undone. I want out. You're not destroying them, he said. You're reclaiming what's yours. That sentence stayed with me. So I followed every step he gave me. I filed the police report. I drafted a formal letter to the bank. I submitted the forged documents with a cover sheet marked, "Dispute of debt, unauthorized signature." I didn't notify my family. I didn't warn them. I didn't say a word. There was nothing left to say. That Sunday, I was invited to dinner, like always. I went. Not to argue. But because I needed to see it one last time. The house smelled the same, lemon cleaner and too much garlic. Brianna was on the couch with a wine glass. Dad was half asleep in his recliner. Mom smiled like she didn't feel the world tilting. We ate pot roast. No one looked me in the eye. After dinner, I asked, "Hey, does anyone know anything about a mortgage, in my name?" The silence was immediate. Thick. Ugly. Mom spoke first, voice light like it was no big deal. "Oh, honey, it's just paperwork." Brianna needed help qualifying. "It's not like you're paying anything." "You have good credit," Brianna added. Her eyes never left the table. "It's not fair if you won't help." Fair. That word again. Like I was being selfish for noticing. I nodded. "Thanks for explaining," I said softly. They looked relieved. But I had already left them, quietly, completely, long before I stood up from that table. The next morning, I filed the police report. The officer behind the desk had tired eyes and a cautious tone, like someone who'd seen one too many family betrayals and learned not to react too quickly. He asked me if I was sure. "If I don't do this," I said, "they'll keep doing it." He nodded, stamped the forms, and handed me the official case number. That afternoon, I mailed a certified envelope to Liberty National. Inside, the police report, copies of my ID, and a notarized dispute of debt. I watched the clerk slide the envelope into the outgoing tray like it was any other letter. To me, it was a severance notice. No warning. No screaming. Just a quiet end. 3 days passed. Then 5. No calls. No texts. Only silence. On the 7th day, just after sunset, there was a knock at my door. Through the peephole, I saw my mother. She wore her best coat. Her hair was done. Her face was tight, part rage, part fear. I opened the door but didn't invite her in. She didn't wait. How could you? She hissed. You went to the police? Her voice shook, not from hurt, but from panic. Not about me. About what it meant. You didn't even call, she snapped. You blindsided us. I didn't flinch. I didn't apologize. I trusted you, she continued. To be understanding. Brianna needed help. Family sticks together. I held her gaze. Family asks, I said. They don't forge. She blinked. Once. Twice. It hit harder because I didn't raise my voice. You've ruined everything, she snapped. Do you know how this makes us look? I nearly laughed. But I didn't. I didn't ruin anything, I said. I just stopped pretending it wasn't broken. Her mouth opened, but I was already closing the door. The latch clicked softly into place. But to me, it sounded louder than any fight we could have had. That night, Brianna called 12 times. Left 4 voicemails. Each angrier than the last. I deleted them all. The next morning, an email arrived from Liberty National. Subject line, loan suspended, investigation opened. Inside was a formal apology. They were reviewing the notary process. My credit report would be amended. The mortgage had been flagged as disputed and frozen. I exhaled. Not relief. Not joy. Just space. I called Mr. Whitaker to update him. They're taking it seriously, I said. They usually do, he replied. When the truth shows up on paper. He was right. I didn't shout. I didn't beg. I didn't even accuse. I just stood still. And let the truth speak louder than I ever could. In the following days, the silence from my family deepened. No more dinner invites. No how are you, texts. Just the hollow echo of people trying to pretend I didn't exist, until they needed something. But this time I wasn't holding my breath. This time I wasn't the one waiting to be asked. They had counted on my silence. They were right, in a way. I never screamed. I just walked away. Weeks passed. The space between me and them stretched wider with every day of silence. No apology. No explanation. Just absence dressed up as peace. I didn't mind. I filled the quiet with small things. Walks to the farmer's market. Fresh flowers on my kitchen table. Saturday morning spent reading in the sun. It wasn't dramatic. But it was mine. For the first time, I wasn't being pulled into someone else's emergency. There were no surprise texts asking for help. No guilt-soaked reminders that family is everything. Just stillness. And then, a knock at my door. It was early evening. The sky painted in soft pink and orange. Through the peephole, I saw all 3 of them. My mother. My father. Brianna. They stood at the edge of the hallway, uncertain, like they weren't sure whether to knock again or walk away. I opened the door but didn't speak. They looked different. Smaller somehow. My dad's shirt was wrinkled. Brianna's makeup was smudged. Mom clutched her purse like it was the only solid thing she had left. Madeline, my mother said, voice trembling, we made mistakes. But we're still family. Brianna stepped forward. I just need help, she said. Just for a little while. There was no fire left in me. No anger. Only a deep, still quiet. Because I knew. They weren't here because they loved me. They were here because they needed me. I stepped back inside and returned with a manila envelope. Inside, a printed copy of the forged mortgage application. Their signatures. My name. A red stamp across the front, void. Tucked behind it was a birthday card I'd kept for years. The one that read, "You've always been our backup plan." I handed it to my mother. Her hand shook as she took it. "I'm not angry," I said. She opened her mouth to respond. "I'm just done." They didn't follow me as I closed the door. They didn't knock again. This time, the latch didn't echo. It just clicked softly, like punctuation at the end of a sentence I'd been writing for years. And for once, I didn't feel like the villain for choosing myself. I felt free. Spring arrived slowly. The trees outside my apartment bloomed in soft pinks and pale yellows, like the world had decided it was time to start over, even if I hadn't asked it to. My life became quiet in a new way. Not the silence of being ignored, but the kind that feels earned. No more guilt texts. No surprise phone calls. No birthday cards calling me the steady one. I still checked my credit report, like you check a wound even after it's healed. The case remained open. The damage would take time to fully reverse. But I had reclaimed something more important than a score. I had reclaimed my name. I spent my weekends moving again. Not out of panic, but peace. Pottery classes at the community center. Volunteering at the library. Long walks with no one waiting on the other end. One morning, I stood behind my booth at a local artisan fair, surrounded by misshapen mugs and imperfect bowls. A woman picked one up, a small, off-center cup labeled, "Reclamation." She turned it over in her hands. "Why that name?" she asked. I smiled. "Because it wasn't supposed to exist. But it does." She nodded, paid in cash, and walked away. That night, I sat on my balcony with a cup of tea and no phone in sight. Just the sky, soft wind, and my own company. I thought about everything I'd let go. The approval I stopped chasing. The forgiveness I no longer needed. The version of me they thought would always say yes. She was gone. And in her place was someone who didn't owe anyone an explanation. I didn't want revenge. I didn't want them to hurt. I just wanted to be able to live my life without asking for permission. And for the first time, I was doing exactly that. No noise. No drama. Just freedom. I didn't scream. I didn't burn bridges. I just stopped showing up to be used. Sometimes, walking away is the loudest thing you'll ever say. And I meant it. They used my name like it belonged to them. But I took it back, without apology, without noise. If you've ever been treated like the backup plan, you understand why I never looked back. Tell me. Have you ever said yes just to keep the peace? What would happen if you chose yourself instead? Share your story below. And don't forget to subscribe for more voices that finally said enough.